Alright, let's dive into this because there's a lot to unpack here, and personally, I think Mikel Arteta's recent comments are a goldmine for anyone trying to read between the lines of Arsenal's pre-season. Here's the thing, the Emirates Cup Final loss to Dortmund? Yeah, it stings, but what makes this really interesting is how Arteta frames it. He's not just brushing it off, he's dissecting it. And in my opinion, that's the mark of a manager who's not just reacting but strategizing. First off, Arteta's frustration is palpable. He's not sugarcoating the 3-2 defeat, and I respect that. But what many people don't realize is that his critique isn't just about the result, it's about the process. He calls out the set-piece and defensive lapses, which, if you take a step back and think about it, are huge red flags for a team aiming for consistency. Arsenal's identity under Arteta has been about control and efficiency, so these slip-ups? They're not just mistakes, they're deviations from the blueprint. This raises a deeper question. Is this a one-off, or is there a systemic issue brewing? Now, let's talk about the positives, because Arteta's not all doom and gloom. Christos Tzolis? The guy's on fire. 3 goal contributions in as many games. That's not luck, that's impact. What makes this really interesting is how Arteta describes him. Fit, confident, sharp. But here's the detail I find fascinating. His work rate. In pre-season, when players are still finding their rhythm, Tzolis is already putting in the miles. This isn't just about talent, it's about attitude. And if you ask me, that's exactly the kind of player Arsenal needs to complement their stars. Then there's Bruno Guimaraes. The warrior. The leader. The guy who's supposed to ignite something different. Arteta's words here are telling. He's not just praising Guimaraes' quality, he's highlighting his intuition and charisma. What this really suggests is that Arsenal isn't just signing a midfielder, they're signing a catalyst. Someone who can push the team, challenge the status quo, and maybe even fill that leadership void that's been lingering. But here's the thing, can he live up to the hype? Because expectations are sky high, and in my opinion, that's a double-edged sword. What's also intriguing is Arteta's take on the squad shape. He's walking a tightrope here. On one hand, he's got players like Ethan who've been brilliant. On the other, he's dealing with fatigue, heat, and the grind of pre-season. Personally, I think this is where Arteta's management will be tested. How does he balance the load? How does he keep the momentum going into the Community Shield and the Premier League? Because let's be real, pre-season form only matters if it translates into results when it counts. Here's my closing thought. Arsenal's pre-season narrative is a mix of promise and caution. Tzolis and Guimaraes are exciting additions, no doubt. But the defensive lapses and the physical toll of preparation? Those are wildcards. Arteta's got his work cut out for him, but if there's one thing I've learned about this manager, it's that he thrives under pressure. So, are Arsenal ready for the season ahead? In my opinion, they're closer than they were last year. But closer isn't enough. They need to be there. And that's the real question. Can they close the gap?